Welcome to Pacific Praise this morning. It's my pleasure to introduce to you the former halfback for Manu, Samoa, Tu Nuualiitia. Thanks, Tu, for joining us this morning. Look, before we kick into things, tell us what village are you affiliated with and where did you grow up?
Yeah, Talofa, it's good to be with you. My village, my father's village is Whalefa in Upolu. And also my mum, my birth mother, she was from Whalelima in Savai. I've actually, since then, my mum passed away and dad remarried, and so I also have had my stepmum, and she was from the Samoa district of the village of Utuali. So I've got a few villages there, and it's good to know where I'm from and obviously how I connect to Samoa.
So were you born in Samoa?
No, I was born in New Zealand on 22nd of June, 66. So I'm a young man, but it was obviously the hope and the dream of every Samoan mother and father and grandparent and grandmother and father before that to just gain a better life for their kids and a better life for the future of the family name. And so they arrived in New Zealand, my father first in 1955 or 53 actually, sorry, to actually come to New Zealand to get a job, and then eventually he brought my mum over after they were married in Samoa, and he brought my mum over, and basically it's what they say history from there on. They basically came and worked and brought up a family, and we were all born here in New Zealand, and so we've enjoyed the fruits, I suppose, in some respect, the legacy of what my parents have put in place and worked hard for up until now.
Was it easy for you growing up here in New Zealand?
I suppose it wasn't difficult in regards of, whether there was any sort of, discriminations or anything like that. It was just probably hard from the point of view at the time we were growing up. We didn't have a lot, as a lot of Pacific families and families in general didn't have a lot. And so we didn't know what it was not to have a lot because, mum and dad were working. And they worked obviously those jobs like factory people or machinists, sewing machinists, and so all we saw is that our bills were getting paid and we had food on the table and we had clothes to go to school. And so I suppose it wasn't difficult from that point of view, but I suppose had we have known how hard it was at times, because I remember there's a few times that we were eating peanut butter and jam and cabin bread a lot, and at the time you'd probably think that wasn't very good, but no, I don't think it's been that difficult because we had such a loving mum and dad brought us up to honour God, but also to live the island way, which is really just we all look after each other, and family was really important.
So you talk about your parents having faith. Talk us through that journey. How did they come to know their Lord, and what impact did that have on you for your future?
Yeah, I suppose for most Pacific families, their parents have this I suppose ingrained faith which really came from their parents and their parents before them. And so I suppose in Samoa we're very much a Christian country, a very religious country where God is a lot and God is the centre of most things in regards to the life of a Samoan and a family life. And so my father obviously came through there. My dad was actually an organist for the church in Samoa, and so he used to travel around. So again, it's just that whole connection to faith from the day that you're born, and some form of Christianity right through until I suppose most people until they die. But my mum and dad were very strong and very connected to their faith. And so coming to New Zealand, it was just a continuation of that. And so I suppose when they had children, it was important that they continued those same values and those same principles of Christianity into their children's life. And sometimes when you come to New Zealand, the only thing you can do that because you're away from the villages where you have that support of the church and support of the family and those around you in the village, is that you've got to look for that next, similarity or I suppose, organisational environment that's the same. And really that's why we ended up having churches like PIC Newton, where my parents were from, and so I suppose that was the next village connection there for them. And so through that whole connection to PIC Newton, we were brought up as church goers at the PIC Pacific Island Church in Newton, and we ended up learning and living and growing with all the other Samoan families and island families that were in the area at the time. So it was huge, and so from there we had always had that connection. Did I have a personal connection? No, of course not, because I was it was just what I did. It's like going to school every day. You go to Sunday school, and it's the same. And so we just experience it. But as you grow older and as you start to listen to the locals that you did every night, Mum and Dad were asking us to, read the Bible in Samoan, pray in Samoan. We got to eventually start to understand some of the principles that Mum and Dad were talking about, and none more than the verse that in Exodus that says that you honour your mother and your father, and you'll live a lot longer. And most of us Pacific kids know that, because if you honour your mum and dad, you don't end up getting a hiding, and you do live a bit longer. So it was great, and so I just believe that my faith was really instilled by my parents taking us to church, and for us actually released early in our own time. And as you know, God's timing is everything. Where the light goes on, and you realise that this going to church is not just about going to church. It's more than that. It's about a relationship, and that's basically how my journey started.